They don't want you to know how powerful you really are. Because if you ever did, the world you live in would collapse overnight. Psychic powers aren't fiction. They're not fantasy. They're forgotten. What we call intuition, telepathy, remote viewing, even the ability to shift probabilities, these aren't rare gifts. They're natural skills, built-in features of your human experience. They've just been sleeping in plain sight since you were a child. Since day one, you've been told to sit still, follow orders, memorize facts, never question what's possible. That wasn't teaching. That was programming. Suppression disguised as structure. But here's the thing no one told you: the thoughts in your head. They're not just noise. They're frequencies, and those vivid pictures you see in your imagination. They're not just daydreams. They're the first stages of creation. You've been trained to laugh at psychic ability, to dismiss it as fantasy, mysticism, or just plain weird. But let's be honest, haven't you always felt it? That little whisper inside telling you something isn't quite right. That maybe, just maybe, you were meant to remember something important? You weren't born to just observe reality. You were born to command it. This isn't a lecture. This is an initiation. And it begins now. You were taught that thoughts stay inside your head, just internal chatter bouncing off the walls of your skull. Private, harmless, contained. That was the first lie. Thought isn't passive. It isn't invisible. It's not even yours in the way you've been taught to think. Thought is energy. It vibrates. It radiates. It reaches out. Like electricity running through a wire or a radio signal being broadcast through the air, your thoughts don't just stay inside you. They move outward, constantly, shaping the world around you, with or without your permission, with or without your awareness. Life doesn't just happen to you, it responds to you. Every emotion you feel, every mental image you replay, every belief you carry. These things project into the world around you like a magnet, attracting their match. You're not reacting to life, you're summoning it. Most of the time, unconsciously. That awkward conversation that spiraled out of control? That weird burst of good luck that came out of nowhere? That tension in your chest that somehow mirrored the chaos at work? None of it was random. You're broadcasting a frequency, and reality, loyal and blind, responds to that frequency with complete precision. And the moment you really get this, not just hear it, but feel it, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You realize you've been steering the whole time. Most people just don't know they're driving. And let's be clear, this isn't some cute spiritual quote for an Instagram post. This is a law, a universal law. A broadcast always returns with a signal. And your thoughts? They're not whispers. They're blueprints. You've already seen this in your own life. That day you woke up feeling off, and everything went sideways. That time you walked into a room, and the whole mood shifted, even though you didn't say a word. That eerie streak of coincidences that followed a moment of deep emotional clarity? That wasn't luck. That was you. Every single experience in your life is an echo of your internal state. So if thought is this powerful, why don't more people use it consciously? Simple. Because most people aren't actually thinking. They're looping. They're recycling stories, replaying old beliefs, absorbing fears and desires they never even chose. They're not thinking. They're remembering. Remembering what the world told them to want, to avoid, to expect. And when you run the same mental script over and over, guess what? You live the same life, over and over. Until one day you look up and start to wonder, is this just how life is? It's not. It's just how your thoughts are. And this is where it starts to shift. The moment you stop treating thought as mental chatter and start treating it like a command, the game changes. This is the edge. You step into the space where reality bends, not through hustle, not through force, but through alignment. This is where the real work begins, not trying to manifest a wish, but becoming the frequency that makes that wish inevitable. Because the truth is, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you consistently are. Most people will never hear this. And there's a reason we can't share everything here. That's why we built the Insights Academy newsletter. It's completely free. You'll find the link in the description. Drop your email there and we'll send you exclusive teachings, plus a free copy of the Kybalion while it's still available. Back to this. When you realize that thought isn't internal, you stop taking it so personally. You begin to train it. Like a breath, like a muscle. You start noticing the tone you wake up in. You pay attention to the emotion behind your wants, and soon you'll start seeing small shifts. Delays vanish. Resistance fades. Synchronicities multiply. This is the beginning of psychic development. Not flashy magic tricks, but invisible causes leading to visible effects. At first, it feels subtle. Then, it becomes undeniable. This is what we call the first pulse. The first pulse is that moment when your mind starts sending out a new signal, one not dictated by your past, but chosen by your will. It's the moment your inner vibration syncs with a reality you once thought was out of reach. The shift isn't loud, it's not dramatic, it's not even fast, but it's precise. You start to notice your internal state isn't a secret anymore. It's reflected in everything: your conversations, your timing, your body, your mood. Thought stops being reactive. It becomes a tool, a current, a force. And once you feel that first pulse, the door opens. You stop waiting for permission. You stop asking for signs. You become the sign. You start sculpting your day with intention, with energy, with awareness. You're not just another voice in the noise anymore. You're the tuning fork. And the world, it starts to tune to you. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful force in your life isn't what you do. It's what you think, consistently, emotionally, with conviction. You're not here just to navigate reality. You're here to shape it. The first pulse is only the beginning. Most people think they're thinking, but they're not. They're being thought. By society, by habit, by 1,000 invisible voices they never consciously chose, but carry around like second skins. Take a walk down any street. Sit in a classroom. Scroll through social media. You'll see it. Thought, in most places, isn't sovereign. It's scattered. Reactive. Disconnected. Like leaves blowing in the wind. The average mind isn't a commander, it's a captive. Looping old scripts it didn't write. Chasing feelings it doesn't understand. Fearing outcomes that have already been rehearsed 1,000,000 times. This is the hidden architecture of modern life. Your mind has been colonized, not with chains, but with noise. Repetition, suggestion, conditioning. You've been told what to want, what to fear, what to admire. You've been trained to silence your inner voice unless it matches the dominant narrative. And when you do try to think for yourself, when you try to feel a truth that goes deeper than the surface noise, the world pushes back. Hard. It calls you irrational. It calls you selfish. It calls you naive. And piece by piece, moment by moment, you start giving away your own inner throne. You become a follower inside your own mind. But here's the thing, that throne? It never left. It's still there, waiting. Silent, centered, untouched by the storm of thoughts rushing around it, and it's yours by birthright. It's not built on emotion or logic, but awareness, not just the kind of awareness that shows up when you meditate and then disappears the second life gets loud. No, the kind that chooses what to focus on, that decides which thoughts get airtime, which beliefs stay, and which ones need to go. That's where sovereignty begins, not with control, but with clarity. It's the moment you realize you are not your fear, not your moods, not your stress, not your inherited patterns. You're the one watching them. You're the one who can name them, direct them, command them. You are the eye behind the noise. And the moment you start living from that place, everything begins to shift. You stop panicking when fear shows up. You don't spiral when doubt creeps in. You just see it, name it, and let it pass like weather moving through the sky. And as you keep doing this, day after day, breath after breath, something incredible happens. The winds lose their grip. The chaos loses its edge, and the throne, it stops being a concept. It becomes a reality, a place you live from. From that place, you don't fight your mind. You guide it. You don't obey emotion. You refine it. You don't get pulled by the drama of the day. You observe. You choose. You respond with precision. And here's the truth. The world doesn't teach you how to do this. The world teaches you to obey. It rewards repetition. It celebrates conformity. It gives applause for agreement and punishment for disruption, which is why most people will never meet their true mind. They stay trapped in the outer layers, reacting, performing, surviving. They speak from memory, not from knowing. But the moment you step back, just once, and ask, who's thinking this thought? You break the spell. You tear a hole in the veil. You create space. And in that space, sovereignty is born. That's how you begin to reclaim the throne. Not by becoming rigid or cold or detached, but by becoming deliberate. By choosing your mental environment with the same care you'd choose who lives in your home. You stop tolerating the inner critic. You stop hosting doubt like it's some kind of wise guest. You stop confusing guilt for truth. The sovereign mind isn't obsessed with being positive. It's obsessed with being clear. And clarity, when it's real, is quiet, grounded, uncompromising. And once you start living from that clarity, psychic development stops being a mystery. It becomes inevitable. Because now your energy isn't being drained by contradictions. Your will isn't being scattered across 100 half-beliefs and mixed intentions. You're aligned. And alignment? That's what activates the abilities you once thought were impossible. Your intuition sharpens. Your insight pierces deeper. And the world doesn't just react to what you do. It starts responding to what you are. This is why the ancient ones, the mystics, the sages, the adepts, never separated power from discipline. They never separated magic from awareness. Because before you can move mountains, you have to learn to hold attention. Before you can see through the veil, you have to clear the fog within. The mind is your temple. The will is your priest. And thought, when placed on the altar with clarity, becomes invocation. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more sovereignty. And that starts right here, right now, with you sitting upon the throne of your own awareness. Not as a tyrant, not as a lost child, but as the silent architect, the one who knows that every thought allowed to live in your mind is a seed, and the world you walk through tomorrow, it's growing right now from the seeds you're watering today. You've been taught to fear your emotions, to treat them like flaws, malfunctions, or dangerous storms that need to be hidden, silenced, or medicated. But here's the truth. Your emotions aren't obstacles. They're energy. Raw, unfiltered, powerful, waiting to be shaped. Anger, fear, jealousy, shame. They're not signs that something is wrong with you. They're invitations. messages from deep within, signals of untapped potential, unprocessed truth, unrealized power. But no one ever told you that. Because if you learned emotional sovereignty, you'd become free. And freedom? Real freedom? It can't be taxed. It can't be sold. It can't be controlled. That's why the system never taught you how to feel, only how to manage. But this is where the shift happens. This is where emotional alchemy begins. Not when you ask, how do I get rid of this feeling? But when you ask, what is this feeling made of? Fear, at its core, is perception, sharpened by uncertainty. Anger is love, poisoned by injustice. Jealousy is a flashlight, pointing to your own forgotten desires. These aren't enemies, they're elements. Lead, iron, mercury. And just like an alchemist knows, base metals aren't trash, they're materials that can become gold, but only if you learn to work with them. Most people don't. They suppress, they avoid, they explode. They treat emotional discomfort like a virus, something to be quarantined or denied. But what they don't realize is, avoidance is what gives that feeling power. Because when you suppress an emotion, you don't dissolve it. You embed it. You drive it deeper into the subconscious, where it becomes a filter, influencing your thoughts, your choices, your frequency. It doesn't go away, it hides, and from the shadows, it shapes your entire reality, while you pretend it's gone. This is why your emotional state matters more than your intentions. You can say all the affirmations you want. You can visualize success, speak mantras, and create vision boards. But if your dominant emotional frequency is fear or lack, those words are just noise. The signal doesn't get through. Reality doesn't respond to what you say you feel. It responds to what you actually are. This is the principle most people miss. The foundation of psychic power isn't mental tricks, it's emotional clarity. Your emotions are the voltage behind your thoughts. They're the charge, the fuel, the engine. And when you learn to master them, not suppress, not fake, but master, you don't just feel better. You become a generator. So how do you do that? How do you transmute an emotion? Step 1. Observe. Don't judge it. Don't fix it. Don't analyze it. Just feel it. You notice fear rising in your chest. You don't label it as failure or weakness. You breathe. You hold space. You say, "This is energy. I'm not here to be ruled by it. I'm here to refine it." That pause, that's your crucible. That's where transformation begins. Anger becomes clarity. Grief becomes depth. Shame becomes humility. And as you do this more and more, something unexpected happens. Your emotional body begins to trust you. It stops erupting. It starts communicating. You go from being a reactor to a refiner. That's when your emotions become tools. That's when you step into your psychic strength. Because the truth is, your emotional body is one of your greatest intuitive instruments. It can detect lies before they're spoken. It can sense outcomes before they arrive, but only when it's clear. Most people's emotional field is like fog, thick with old wounds, stagnant reactions, and unspoken needs. And if you want real psychic clarity, not just vibes, not just hope, you need emotional clarity. Not numbness, not detachment, clarity. The ability to feel deeply without drowning, to sense powerfully without losing yourself. That's the art. That's emotional alchemy. There will be days where the feelings hit hard, where your chest tightens, your thoughts race, your nervous system screams. That's not failure. That's your system surfacing, clearing. Old loops trying to run one more time. But now, you're awake. Now you know. Every time you sit with a difficult emotion without collapsing, without reacting, without outsourcing your power to someone else, You're breaking a chain. You're evolving. You're choosing creation over survival, deliberate action over automatic reaction. And over time, that becomes instinct. You stop fearing emotion. You listen to it. You stop suppressing it. You redirect it. And the wildest part? You start feeling more, not less. But now, with that feeling comes freedom. Because nothing inside you owns you anymore. You own it. And when you hit that state, when your signal is clean, your emotional voltage aligned, your intuition doesn't just whisper, it awakens, not as a mysterious voice from somewhere out there, but as a knowing, so clean, so consistent, that it becomes undeniable. You're no longer second-guessing your gut. You are your gut. Alchemy isn't a myth, it's a method. And your emotions? They're not problems to fix, they're the material. The only question is, will you burn them? Will you bury them? Or will you refine them into light? There is no psychic ability without focus. None. You can flood your space with affirmations, stack your shelves with crystals, devour every sacred text ever written. But if your attention is scattered, your power is scattered. Focus isn't just useful, it's foundational. Concentration is the blade of the mind. Without it, thought is fog, drifting, soft, ineffective. With it, thought becomes a weapon, sharp, precise, world-shaping. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The modern world is built to steal this from you. Your phone, your feed, your inbox, your calendar, all carefully designed to fracture your attention into 1,000 tiny fragments. One scroll here, one ping there, one flash of noise in the middle of your stillness. Because a distracted mind is a compliant mind, and that's no accident. Because the moment you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your will. And your will, focused and unshaken, is what bends reality. Now, let's clear something up. Concentration isn't about tension. It's not about clenching your jaw, furrowing your brow, or forcing your thoughts into a headlock. True concentration is devotion. It's stillness with purpose. It's the ability to rest your entire mind in one place, one idea, one vision, one breath, without drifting, without reacting. When your attention holds steady, your energy condenses, your frequency stabilizes, and the world starts responding with ease, not effort. Most people have never felt this, because they've never held their attention long enough to reach the still point. Instead, they're leaking energy, constantly. 1 second here, 1 second there, chasing sounds, reacting to movement, getting pulled by thoughts, emotions, impulses, over and over again. But when you start training your attention, even just for a few minutes, you feel it. The shift. The noise begins to fade. Your nervous system starts to relax. Your inner world gets quieter, not empty, clear. And clarity is where psychic power starts to form. That's when you start to notice things you couldn't before. You start catching thoughts before they fully enter. You feel an impression before someone speaks. Your visualizations stop being vague ideas and start becoming real, magnetic, detailed blueprints. This isn't imagination. This is creation. At the formative level. And the only reason most people never touch it, because their mind won't hold still long enough to build the bridge. So start small. Pick one word, one image, one breath, not because the thing itself matters, but because the act of staying matters. You're not meditating to be calm. You're training to build voltage. And over time, your attention becomes a force, a frequency that doesn't flicker, a signal that doesn't short-circuit. You stop sending mixed messages to the universe. You become single-minded, not in obsession, but in intention. The concentrated mind has presence. You walk into a room, and the atmosphere shifts. You think of someone, and they call. You hold a vision, and life shapes itself around it. It's not magic, it's alignment. You've stopped scattering your energy across 1,000 unconscious channels, and you've started directing it with precision. Psychic power isn't chaos. It's structure, it's clarity, it's focus, honed until the unseen world responds like the seen. Concentration is the forge. It's where thought becomes reality. It's the forgotten discipline behind every intuitive hit, every prophetic dream, every energetic command. Without it, you're guessing. With it, you're creating. Now, your mind won't like this at first. It will resist. It will wander. It will rebel. That's not failure. That's detox. Years, maybe decades, of mental chaos don't dissolve in a weekend. But every time you pull your focus back, every time you hold your attention steady in a world that begs you to drift, you're building power. Silent, steady, unshakable. This is why so many ancient disciplines, from martial arts to mysticism, begin with attention. Because focus doesn't just build skill, it rebuilds you. It burns away the static. It clears the channel, and once that channel is clear, you don't have to push, you don't have to chase. You simply intend, and the world moves. Focus is not force. It's not about holding your breath and hoping things work out. It's about alignment. It's about cutting through the noise until only signal remains. And when your mind becomes a blade, reality follows. Desire isn't weakness. It's not greed. It's not neediness. It's not some shameful craving you're supposed to hide. Real desire? It's voltage. It's the pulse behind your power. It's what pulls unseen possibility into visible form. Every intuitive flash, every manifestation, every moment you feel yourself shifting reality, it's powered by desire. Not just a vague wish that something might happen, but a current, strong, clear, aligned, that makes it inevitable. Without desire, thought has no charge. It's just air. But when desire is clean, when it's aligned with who you really are, it becomes a field, a magnetic one. And that's when reality starts to move. But here's the catch. Most people have been trained to mistrust their desire. You've been told to be suspicious of wanting. That too much desire is dangerous. That passion is a problem. That contentment means needing nothing at all. But that's a lie. Because contentment without movement is just stagnation. You weren't born to be still. You were born to emit. Your true desires aren't coming from advertising. They're not born from insecurity or comparison. They're reminders, echoes from the part of you that already knows what's possible. And when you align with one of those desires, reality doesn't hesitate. It shifts. Desire becomes magnetic when it's no longer coming from fear. And that's the part most people miss. They think they're desiring, but really, they're panicking. They want money because they fear being broke. They want love because they fear being alone. They want success because they fear being unseen. And the universe doesn't respond to the surface level want. It responds to the frequency underneath. So what gets mirrored back? The fear, not the wish. And they wonder why nothing changes. They pray, they journal, they hustle. But their signal hasn't shifted because they're still broadcasting from the wound, not the truth. But when your desire comes from clarity instead of desperation, everything changes. You stop chasing. You start calling. You're not begging the universe anymore. You're declaring. Your thoughts carry conviction. Your vision stops being hopeful and starts being anchored. You're no longer asking if it's possible. You're living like it already is. And that changes everything. There's a big difference between "I hope this happens" and this is happening. The universe feels the difference. So do people. So does opportunity. It's like a singer hitting a note so pure, it shatters glass. That's what clear, aligned desire does to the structure of your reality. It resonates. It cuts through noise, and the more sustained it is, the more matter reshapes itself around you. Not because you're forcing, but because you're forcing, but because you've become a living signal. And the law says, signal gets a match. This is why desire without focus is dangerous, because scattered desire leaks. It burns out. It turns into obsession, and obsession clouds clarity. But when desire is paired with attention, when it's consistent and aligned, it becomes frequency. And frequency is what moves the world. You don't just get pulled toward your vision. You become the gravitational field that pulls it in. And you felt this before. That moment you knew something was coming, and it did. That weird ease when something unfolded exactly the way you envisioned. That wasn't luck. That was resonance. A flash of what it's like to live as a signal, not a seeker. So, if you want to develop real psychic power, you have to start here, with what you want, with what you're willing to declare, not with wishful thinking, with knowing. Hold your desire long enough for it to become identity. Feel it so clearly, so deeply, that doubt has nowhere to stick. That resistance finds no grip. This isn't about visualizing once and moving on. This is about becoming the vision, living it, breathing it, walking in it, until the line between desire and reality disappears. Here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they want too much. They fail because their desire is scattered, held halfway, whispered in secret, instead of declared with conviction. And the universe doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to frequency. And frequency is built through sustained, intentional desire. Desire is sacred. It's the electric fingerprint of your soul's purpose. It's not something to dilute just to make people comfortable. It's not something to suppress to fit in. It's something to honor, to follow, to trust. Because once you learn to direct it, everything starts to move. Most people think transformation is a one-time thing, a sudden lightning bolt, a breakthrough moment, a big, dramatic awakening where everything changes overnight. But the truth? Real transformation doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in rhythm. It builds in the quiet, hidden grooves of your everyday thoughts, the ones you repeat when nobody's looking. Change isn't just about decisions. It's about frequency made permanent. And that frequency, it's built by habit. Habit is more than behavior. It's the background music of your nervous system. It's the tone you hum with, day after day. It shapes your perception. It shapes your psychic signal, whether you realize it or not. You can think a powerful thought one time, and it might feel inspiring, but it won't change your life. Think that thought 10,000 times. Now it becomes your lens, your filter, your default vibration. And life will start to mirror that, whether you're aware of it or not. Repetition is what creates belief. And belief is what your entire life wraps itself around. This is the hidden mechanism behind reality. You don't get what you say once. You get what you practice. Especially what you practice when you're not paying attention. So stop and take inventory. Look at your life, not just the events, but the patterns, the way you talk to yourself when things go wrong, the stories you tell when no one's listening, the thoughts you come back to when the world is silent. Those aren't just leftovers from your past. They're instructions. They're shaping your future every single day. Every loop you let run, it becomes code in your field. Every emotional reaction you repeat, it sets a frequency. Every identity you reinforce, even unconsciously, it adds weight to the direction you're moving in. And here's the key. The more often you think something, the easier it is to think it again. The mind folds where it's been folded before. That's where true power lies, because psychic development isn't just about flashes of insight or powerful moments. It's about building a mental and energetic foundation strong enough to hold the signal. Think about it. If your inner world collapses every time something goes wrong, if you default to fear when pressure hits, if your willpower vanishes without external validation, how are you going to hold a signal strong enough to reshape reality? You're not, because the gifts, the intuition, the synchronicity, the vision, they only become consistent when your mental atmosphere is stable. And stability comes from rhythm, repetition, training, not once, not for a week, ongoing. This is the invisible work no one sees, but every true master does. The mystics knew it, the adepts, the magicians, the ones who didn't just seek power, but earned it. They didn't chase big moments. They built momentum. They held certain postures, spoke certain truths, practiced certain rituals, not from superstition, but from rhythm. Because the subconscious doesn't believe what you say once. It believes what it sees daily, what it feels in your body, what it hears in your voice, again and again, until doubt becomes silence and truth becomes instinct. The modern world doesn't like this. It wants fast. It wants flashy. It celebrates instant results, viral hacks, quick fixes. But the universe? It's not listening to what you say once. It's listening to what you live, what you repeat, what you keep returning to, especially when no one's watching. That's what your future listens to. So if you want to build psychic strength, stop looking for signs. Start mastering your mental climate. Pick a frequency, calm, clear, confident, and wear it. Speak from it. Breathe in it. Return to it. Not perfectly, but persistently. Every time you choose that new thought over the old one, you're folding your mind differently. You're voting for your future self. And eventually, something wild happens. One day, something rattles your world, and you don't flinch. You don't fall back into panic. You respond from your new groove. And it's not some miracle. It's momentum. It's the result of the work you did when no one else saw it. This is what makes habit the great equalizer. You don't have to be born gifted. You don't have to be the most intuitive person in the room. You just have to train. Not for an hour, but for a lifetime. Until your chosen frequency becomes the background music of your life. Until holding focus is your default. Until alignment isn't something you try to find. It's the ground you walk on. The true masters aren't obsessed with powers. They're obsessed with refinement. Because they understand this, the ability to influence energy, to see beyond the physical senses, to shift reality with precision. It doesn't come from peak moments. It comes from the repeated. If your daily habits don't match your desired outcome, your signal stays weak. It doesn't matter how many books you read or how much you want it. But if your daily rhythm does match, if your nervous system hums with the frequency of who you're becoming, then nothing can stop it. This is where the invisible becomes visible, where what's done in silence echoes in the external, where habit stops being a chore and becomes a sacred rhythm. Repetition is not boring. It's holy. It's how you show the universe, I'm not just curious, I'm committed. And when your body, your voice, your field all speak that commitment, reality responds. What if the events in your life, the wins, the losses, the weird coincidences, weren't random? What if luck and divine timing weren't about chance at all, but about precision? What if psychic ability isn't some mystical fluke, but the result of alignment with invisible laws that are just as real as gravity? You weren't born to be ruled by accidents. You were born to become an agent of cause. Here's the illusion that keeps most people disempowered. The idea that life just happens to you. That miracles are rare exceptions. That everything is out of your control, and the best you can do is cope. But once you understand this one core truth, that the universe doesn't run on chance, but on law, everything changes. You stop reacting to life. You start creating it. Not randomly. Not by luck, but deliberately. The law is simple. What you consistently expect is what gets mirrored back. Not what you wish for. Not what you affirm once. What you expect, deep in your bones. This isn't positive thinking. This is psychic engineering. Because your expectations are frequencies. They're not quiet requests, they're commands. They're encoded in your emotional tone, your posture, your nervous system, your conviction. And that's what the universe listens to. Not your words, but your wavelength. This is why so many people struggle with manifestation. They visualize. They chant affirmations. They build vision boards. But underneath it all, they still expect to lose. They hope, but don't believe. They ask, but don't align. And nothing moves. Because energy doesn't respond to surface-level input. It responds to the deep code, the frequency you carry when no one's watching. That deep code is shaped by law, the law of vibration, the law of assumption, the law of resonance. These aren't abstract concepts, they are the mechanics of reality. You don't see them, but you feel them. You felt how one person walks into a room and shifts the entire atmosphere without saying a word. You felt how your own state affects timing, synchronicity, even technology. That's not random. That's alignment. You're not here to manipulate reality with tricks or shortcuts. You're here to attune to it so precisely, so honestly, that reality has no choice but to respond. That's real psychic power. Not escaping the rules of life, but mastering them. Tracing every external outcome back to its internal cause. Because when you understand the root, you can change the result. Every time. When you live by law, you stop gambling with your life. You stop hoping for signs. You become the sign. You walk through the world not with desperation, but with inevitability. And it shows. People treat you differently. Time bends in strange ways. Opportunities come faster, not because the universe is being nice, but because you finally tuned in to the frequency that's always been there. You just weren't aligned before. The moment you stop believing that your life is dictated by chance, that's the moment you level up. Because now cause isn't external, it's internal. You create not through effort, but through intention. Not by pushing harder, but by aligning deeper. And when that happens, that's when all the psychic stuff you've been chasing starts to unlock. Not because you learned a new trick, but because you stopped fighting the current and became it. Now, let's be real. This kind of power can be intimidating, because it comes with responsibility. If your life is shaped by your inner state, you can't blame the world anymore. You can't pretend to be a victim of fate. You have to own your frequency. But inside that ownership lies total freedom. Because once you understand the machine, you're no longer a passenger. You're at the controls. Here's the irony. What we call supernatural is usually just natural law, misunderstood or ignored. Clairvoyance, intuition, synchronicity. These aren't glitches in the matrix. They're glimpses into how the matrix actually runs. You're already plugged into the system. The question is, are you working with it or against it? And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort means the truth is pressing up against your old identity. Let it push through. Because the moment you realize life is governed by law, not luck, you stop waiting. You start commanding. Awakening isn't a grand finale. It's a starting point. It's a return to the seat of power you never lost, only forgot. Because the truth is, everything you've been chasing, the power, the intuition, the clarity, you already are all of it. You've just been trained to doubt it. You were born with a mind designed to pierce illusion, with energy designed to influence reality. But you've been taught to filter that power through fear, to silence it with logic, to hand it over to systems that benefit when you stay small. This world doesn't encourage awakening. It encourages management of symptoms, management of behavior, management of expectations. You're rewarded for fitting in and punished for remembering what's possible. But once you see how it all works, once you feel the structure underneath the chaos, you can't unsee it. That's the fracture point. That's when the veil lifts. Not with force, with awareness, and you realize the system never had real power. It only had your agreement. Reclaiming your psychic self means withdrawing that agreement. Not in protest, in silence. You stop feeding the identities that keep you small. You stop performing someone else's version of reality. And this is where everything begins to change. You stop asking for proof. You start feeling for resonance. You stop waiting for permission. You start listening to the voice inside, the one that's been buried beneath years of noise. And that voice, it doesn't beg, it doesn't shout, it doesn't argue or try to convince you. It just speaks one thing: truth. Clean, direct, undeniable. And the more you listen, the louder it gets. The more you follow it, the clearer your path becomes. Those synchronicities you've seen, the so-called coincidences that lined up a little too perfectly, they weren't random. They were echoes, signals from a version of you that already knows the way. The mistake most people make? They wait until they feel ready before they move, before they trust, before they start. But readiness isn't a feeling. It's a decision. You decide to wake up. You decide to trust your knowing, even when it doesn't match what the world says. You decide to act as the person you are, not the one you were trained to be. And just that one shift, that one internal yes, sends shockwaves through your life. The energy moves differently. People treat you differently. Not because you told them to, but because your frequency did. This is where real power begins. When you stop using your sensitivity to escape the world and start using it to shape it. You stop floating through life, hoping things click. You become intentional. You're not reacting to circumstances anymore. You're emitting a signal that changes them. You're not just reading people. You're reading patterns. You're not hoping for a better future. You're architecting one in real time, using thought, emotion, intention. And here's the question that cracks everything open. If all of this is real, and you know it is, why haven't you acted on it? Why haven't you stepped fully into it? What belief is still whispering that you're not ready? That you need more time, more signs, more validation? That belief, it's not the truth. It's programming. And the wild thing is, you can let it go right now. Not after 30 days of meditation. Not after you've cleaned up your entire life. Now. Because power doesn't exist in the future. It lives in the present. It lives in the exact moment you decide to stop waiting to become who you already are. If you've made it this far in this video, you already feel it. The shift, that subtle click, that quiet voice inside saying, yeah, this is it. Because you're not learning something new here, you're remembering. And the real question isn't, is this real? It's, what would change if I acted like it was? This is the path of sovereignty, of psychic clarity, of real inner authority. And no, it's not always comfortable. It will demand everything that isn't real to fall away. But what you gain, what you reclaim, it's everything. A life lived by design, not by default. A mind that doesn't obey fear. A spirit that doesn't apologize for its power. The last big lie they told you? That awakening is the end. That once you know the truth, you've made it. That you're done. But awakening isn't the finish line. It's the threshold. It's the point of no return. Because once you truly grasp the power of your thoughts, once you understand that your emotions are voltage, that your focus is the sculptor of reality, you don't just awaken, you evolve. You stop navigating life from survival. You start moving from sovereignty. And that's where everything shifts. Psychic development becomes less about abilities and more about responsibility. Not the kind that weighs you down, but the kind that lifts you up. The kind born from clarity. You begin to realize every word you speak, every image you hold, every emotion you carry, it all goes somewhere. It all shapes something. Your future, your relationships, your field. Nothing you do is neutral. Energy moves. And now, for the first time, you're moving it on purpose. You become deliberate, not rigid, not cold, but intentional. You stop living to impress. You start living to express. You don't crave approval anymore, because you've felt the clarity of alignment. You don't chase control, because you've experienced the power of surrender. This isn't detachment. This is mastery. A real psychic doesn't run from chaos. They transmute it. They don't suppress emotion. They decode it, refine it. Because now they know everything is data. Everything is signal. Everything is feedback from a universe that doesn't judge you. It mirrors you. And here's the big shift. You stop chasing psychic powers and start realizing you are the power. And once you get that, you don't need to seek more. You just need to deepen what's already there. You fine-tune your intuition until it stops being a whisper and starts being a compass. You strengthen your vision until your thoughts aren't just nice ideas in your head. They're commands received by reality. You hold presence so clearly, so fully, that people feel it before you say a word. You start living from the inside out. The world doesn't get to tell you who you are anymore. You tell the world what's real, not with force, with frequency, not by arguing, but by embodying. Your presence becomes your proof. Your field becomes your message. And people start asking, how do you always know what's going to happen? Why do things just seem to work for you? But they're asking the wrong questions. It's not about being lucky. It's about resonance. It's about turning down the noise and turning up your signal until the world starts tuning in to you. That's what it means to live beyond human. Not to float above life like some untouchable mystic, but to drop so deeply into life that everything becomes a training ground. Every interaction becomes a ritual. Every challenge becomes a mirror. Every day becomes a chance to refine your frequency. You're no longer just navigating the system. You're rewriting your code. And with that, you rewrite the code of your reality. So what now? You don't go back to sleep. You go deeper. You teach, not by convincing people, but by living it. You stop waiting for the world to bring the right people to you. You become the signal that draws them in. Your field builds the new world. You become a lighthouse for others, not because you're perfect, but because you're aligned. And remember, what you've unlocked here, it's just the beginning. The Kybalion, which you'll get when you sign up for the free Insights Academy newsletter, isn't just another spiritual book. It's a key, a map. It lays out the very laws that govern this unseen structure, the blueprint behind everything you've experienced but never had language for. You'll find the link in the description. Don't wait. Truth like this doesn't linger. It invites you to rise. And if you've made it to this point in the video, chances are something has already shifted inside you. You feel it, right? That gentle tension in your chest. That quiet knowing behind your thoughts. That's not just curiosity. That's the signal of remembrance, the return to something ancient within you. The you that knows. The you that doesn't need to be told twice. The you that's always been ready, even if your programming said otherwise. The world will try to pull you back, into patterns, into silence, into doubt, but now you've seen the code. You've felt the structure beneath the illusion. You've touched the part of you that isn't confused, isn't lost, and never really forgot. You remembered, and now you act like it. This is where initiation becomes embodiment, where knowledge becomes action, where potential becomes presence. From here forward, your life is no longer something you hope works out. It's something you sculpt, moment by moment, thought by thought, breath by breath. You're no longer pretending to be powerful. You are. You begin choosing your thoughts the way an architect chooses blueprints. You begin managing your energy the way a pilot watches instruments. You command your attention, not to force reality, but to shape it like clay. You live the frequency that others still only dream about. And when things get hard, you don't crumble. You tune. You adjust. You align. The truth is, life doesn't get easier from here. It gets realer, sharper, cleaner. But also, it gets more you, more alive, more on purpose. You stop wasting energy on things that don't match your field. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. You stop bending for systems that never served your soul. You're not here to fit in. You're here to resonate. You're not here to be accepted. You're here to transmit. And the more consistently you do that, the more your outer world transforms. Not instantly, not perfectly, but undeniably. People who used to drain you fall away. Environments that once felt suffocating suddenly shift. New ideas drop into your mind like downloads. Not from outside. From you. From the deeper, clearer, truer version of yourself that's always been just beneath the surface, waiting for you to stop pretending, waiting for you to stop seeking, and start emitting. Because once you do, you don't just access your psychic potential, you become it. And when that happens, reality never looks the same again. You stop asking, when will it happen? And you start asking, who am I being while it's happening? Because you've realized, it's not about waiting for the world to shift. It's about becoming the shift. You stop treating psychic power as something you have to get, and start realizing it's something you have to own. And from that point on, everything simplifies. Not because life is always easy, but because your alignment becomes unshakable. The drama doesn't pull you in the same way. The noise doesn't get past your signal. The chaos doesn't stick, because you're no longer tuned to it. You've changed frequency. And when you change frequency, you change reality. Because reality doesn't respond to what you want once. It responds to what you live, repeatedly, with emotional clarity and inner stability. So what happens now? You build, you refine, you strengthen the core, not for the world, not for show, but because you know what you're here to do. And you're done outsourcing your power. You stop letting distractions take the wheel. You stop letting other people's expectations write your script. You return to the source of your vision. And you start building from the inside out, one thought, one breath, one frequency at a time. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. It's about sitting with the uncomfortable stuff long enough to alchemize it, not suppress it. It's about choosing focus over chaos, even when your mind wants to run. It's about holding the signal, especially when no one's watching. Because that's what separates those who dabble in power from those who embody it. When the world gets loud, you go quiet. When people around you react, you respond. When fear shows up, you see it, and then you lead yourself through it. Because you're not avoiding life anymore. You're in it. Rooted, present, sovereign. And now, your very presence begins to shift the field around you. You speak less, but your words hit deeper. You try less, but more things move. You resist less, but you get more done. Why? Because you've dropped into coherence. You're no longer fighting the laws, you're living in tune with them. And that's when life starts to feel guided. Like a dance you already know the steps to. Like a script you're no longer reading, because you're writing it in real time. And as you grow in this, you start to notice something else. You're no longer alone. Because when you rise, the world rises with you. You start attracting others who get it, not because you explained it, but because they can feel it in your field. The right people start appearing. The right ideas start flowing. The right timing unfolds, not magically, but mathematically, as in, by law. Because when your inner world holds coherence, your outer world must reflect it. It has no choice. This is not mysticism. This is mechanics. And you've always been part of it, you just forgot. Until now. So let this video be a return, a marker in your timeline. A moment you remember not because it gave you something new, but because it reawakened what's always been yours. You don't need more answers. You need more alignment. You don't need more gurus. You need more stillness. You don't need more signs. You are the sign. So the next time you doubt, the next time you start wondering if this is real, if you're ready, if you're allowed to be this powerful, remember this: you don't have to earn it. You just have to become it. You don't have to chase it. You just have to clear the way for it. Your mind was made for this. Your spirit was built for this. Your life was always meant to reflect this. Now it's your turn to live it. And if this video stirred something in you, something deep, something undeniable, don't let it fade. Honor it. Follow it. That feeling? It's not hype. It's remembrance. And you can amplify that signal even further by joining the Insights Academy newsletter. It's free. No fluff. No gimmicks. Just truth, delivered directly, consistently. You'll also get a digital copy of the Kabbalion, a sacred text that maps out the laws behind everything we've talked about here. The link is in the description. This is for those who are ready to move differently. Not someday. Now. And before you go, if something in this message clicked for you, dropped into your bones like truth, leave a comment. Let us know. Just type, "I understood it." We don't need a whole paragraph. Just that one phrase tells us you're part of this frequency. That you're not here to scroll. You're here to remember. We'll see you inside.